Welcome back to Morning Munchies. I'm your host, Dominic Gonzalez, here in Killeen, right outside of Let's Eat Texas, where I'll be sitting down with the owner to talk about all the flavors and cultures that make Texas so unique.
My name is Josie McKinney. I'm the chef and owner of Let's Eat Texas in historical downtown Killeen.
Josie has been serving Central Texans since 2019 with her coffee house, eatery, and cooking school triple threat. But that was far from where she started.
So I cooked my entire life, but I was located in Alaska. I'm a fifth generation Alaskan, and spending my whole life there, I had to get very creative with ingredients. I spent a lot of time fishing and hunting and breaking down moose and salmon. And so my journey with food was very different while I was in Alaska. It wasn't until my late 40s that I decided to relocate because so much of my family was leaving Alaska, and I started looking for a place to move, and Google kept telling me Texas, and I kept thinking tumbleweeds and cowboys, why would I move to Texas? I checked out Arizona, I checked out Nevada, Southern Oregon, all the places that I thought would be my top choice. I finally came and checked out Texas. And once I did, I realized it was very different than what I thought. In fact, it was a lot like Alaska without the mountains and the snow. The people, the diversity.
Texas's diversity is something that Josie made a point to highlight when she first opened up Let's Eat Texas. But that was met with mixed results.
When I first opened and I put my menu out, I'm going to admit, people just looked at my menu very confused. Really? I wanted to talk about how potato salad came from Germany. I wanted to talk about how barbecue came from Africa. I wanted to talk about all the diversity of the dishes that are Texas foods, and people looked at it and said, what? I thought this was supposed to be Texas food. And so I had such a wide variety of dishes and tried to explain them in a way that people didn't understand where I was coming from. And so I remember a couple weeks in, I opened the door, and I was still trying to figure out kind of what the customers, what are they seeing? What are they getting about this? In my mind, I'd come up with such a great concept. And a cowboy walked in with his petite little wife, big cowboy hat, cowboy boots, tall, and he grabs the menu, looks at it, and he says, "Let's eat Texas. This ain't Texas food." And he closed the menu, put it down, and they left. Wow. And I had to stop and step back and say, I get it now. They want what they think of as Texas food on the menu. They want to order brisket. They want us to be smoking our meats. And we were doing that, but we were doing it in a way that celebrated all the cultures of Texas in a way that I had not explained well enough for them to understand. So I took a step back, I simplified my menu, and we went back to basics. And now, when I do a fancier menu or I want to get funny with it, now I do supper clubs. Now we do brunches where we can do something that's more upscale and use more seasonal, local ingredients. And we're always going for seasonality, we're always going for local, but honestly, when you're talking about downtown Killeen and a breakfast and lunch crowd, we had to simplify it. Our top 3 dishes are brisket. And so I just really had to understand what my customers needed from me so that we could kind of back up a little bit from my grand vision and give them what they expected, and I can educate in other ways.
One of those ways is emphasizing the importance of knowing what you're eating and where you're getting your food from.
Once I got to Texas, I knew my first job was to understand farm to table, understand the growing season here in Texas, which is year-round, which is amazing and blows my mind as an Alaskan. And so the first thing I said was, it doesn't matter that I've owned a cooking school, bed and breakfast, and done all these chefy things. I'm going back to culinary school. I went to Escoffier in Austin, graduated at the top of my class, and my main focus was learning all about that farm-to-table aspect. I became the garden club president. I just really hunkered down and learned everything I could. First time I saw asparagus growing, first time I saw bananas growing, blew my mind. I just couldn't believe. So I grow everything now, but that first year or two in coming from Alaska to Texas was amazing, and to see all of the produce that we had, the bounty of Texas, I was just amazed. So yeah, so I really embraced that whole farm to table aspect of it, and I really appreciate all the things we can get locally. And I'm working on a cookbook now, and the cookbook really focuses on how Texas cuisine evolved. Where Texas started, and then over the course of all these generations of immigrants coming and changing the way Texans cook. it really created the Texas table today.
We have an exclusive first look at this cookbook. We're not gonna show you, but Dana has a copy.
Can you cut this?
This is confidential. I know, I can't. This is good TV.
Oh, okay.
This is confidential. Okay, yes. Yes, what?
This is Josie's cookbook. We love her. She did an amazing job interviewing. So what she explained in the interview, which you kind of already heard, is that she goes through just different phases where, as an example, like her life growing up in Alaska, but then also those translate over into like just parts of Texas and how different like cultures and their food came over. And so she speaks about Canada, Caddo, Native Americans, and indigenous culture in their foods, Caddo tribe, Tejas.
Yeah.
Karankawa tribe, okay, Apache tribe.
She knows what she's talking about. She
reading.
knows her stuff.
I'm reading.
No,
I'm
talking
me.
about Josie,
Yes.
not you.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but Josie definitely does. Okay.
She definitely does. So this cookbook, she already has 2 pre-orders right here. Me and you, right? You're pre-ordering it.
I have the book in my apartment right now. Okay.
Yeah, she already has 2 pre-orders.
Yeah.
Make sure, so be on the lookout. Chef Josie here at Let's Eat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That cookbook's coming out, and I think it's called, what's it called? A tale, well, I don't know what's it called. A tapestry of cultures on the Texas table. Here we go.
Okay, that's way too close. Okay.
A tapestry of cultures on the Texas table.
They don't want to hear us talk. They want to see. So we have a Caddo recipe, which is a 3 sisters soup. She explains everything here in the cultural note. So she explains where it came from, how it got its name.
I'm no historian. I say in the book, I'm not a historian. I'm a chef who has a passion for the history of the food. And so my take on it is kind of, let's take this like a timeline. Let's start out with the Caddo and the original people of Texas. And let's then build from there on who came next and what did they bring and how did food start to change. And continue to grow the story with each generation and each different group that came in until you finally get to the point where, oh, okay, I understand now that Tex-Mex came from all these different places. I understand now that that barbecue came from all these different places. And it's a marriage of all these different cultures. And again, that's what I love about Texas, the diversity. But of course, me being me, I had to also tell some of my stories and my history and bring that into so the introduction to each chapter is a little story about myself that I feel gives a nod to what's coming in that chapter. In the German chapter, I talked about the fact I'd never been to a German festival. I'd never really drank German beer until I moved to Texas. And all of a sudden, my friend's like, let's go to this German festival. Let's do all these amazing German things. And I'm like, why are we doing German things in Texas? And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh. So my light bulb started going off even after I came to Texas. And that's when I really started doing the research and really trying to understand more about Texas cuisine. And the fact that we have sausage on our barbecue platters is all thanks to Germany, and some to the Czechs as well. So, it's just important to understand that those foods all came from somewhere else and we're such a melting pot.
For Chef Josie, knowing where food comes from is just one part of the bigger picture. For her, it's also about bringing those ingredients into the kitchen and helping people reconnect with the act of cooking.
It's so easy not to cook now that people can go and they can live off the greasy bag drive-through. And so for me, teaching cooking is also really important because I feel like then I'm opening the door for people to eat a little bit better, save their family money, all those things. But going back to your question, for me it was always a passion. It wasn't just I need to cook for my family. It was also how can I make the most of the ingredients that I do have, because I didn't have an abundance of fresh produce, I didn't have an abundance of fresh ingredients. How can I make the most to make each meal special and important to my family? And on that journey of learning those things, my family threw up their hands. They said, we don't want to cook anymore. We want you to do it. And eventually I was making the Thanksgiving turkey and all the sides. And it just was natural for me. So I think between it being a passion and it also being something that I was naturally good at, it just became something that I was always doing.
Now, for a special treat, Josie's going to show us one of the first recipes out of her cooking book. the Three Sisters soup.
So one of the first things I talk about in my cookbook is the Native Americans, the indigenous people to the area of Texas, and the Caddos were some of the very long-standing, one of the very long-standing tribes in Texas, and they were farmers, and so they grew crops, and the crops that they grew were, they're most known for is the Three Sisters, and that is squash, corn, and beans. And so this is what you would see growing. Now obviously they would go out, they would pick wild onions, they would pick wild garlic, they might use something like juniper from the trees, which is this guy right here. I picked this on my ranch just this morning. And you can grind this up and use it like pepper. Everything was about gathering, everything was about hunting, growing, and some tribes did more growing than others, and the Caddo are a good example of a tribe that grew things. So one of the things they might have made from these things would be a soup. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the squashes. They grew a lot of acorn squash. They grew pumpkin. I know this kind of looks a little bit light colored for a pumpkin, but this is more of what they would have been growing. And they would have grown several different colors of corn as well. So when we talk about this, and I mentioned the fact earlier that I use everything. I don't throw anything away, and it's really important to me to be able to keep everything that I have. So basically every scrap goes into a bowl. Everything I do gets reused. So we've got some corn here, local Texas corn. I'm just going to take it off the cob, and I'm not going to waste any part of it. I'm going to keep everything. So I'm going to take this cob across to where I have our stock going. I'm going to throw this in for our stock. And you can see the Three Sisters soup I have going. And you can see my stock pot full of all the scraps of the vegetables. Nothing gets wasted, nothing gets thrown away. From the skins of the peppers and the skin of the garlic to anything that we can't actually cook and eat. So coming back over here, like I said, I've got the squash that they would have used. I've got the corn. And basically, everything, even the skin of the vegetables, all gets kept and used. I don't throw anything away. And then everything else can be combined to throw into the soup. Okay, so here I've got some pumpkin. You could use a peeler, you could use whatever you want for this kind of thing, but again, this has all got good flavor. It's just hard to eat. So we throw it all into our stock pot. I would do the same thing if I was doing any meat. I would take any scraps from the meat, any bones from the meat, and I would throw it in the stock pot. But this is a really wonderful vegetarian dish. And the Caddo would have had a lot of vegetables and a lot of crops that they would preserve and use year-round. And again, with our amazing growing season, they had that opportunity to keep their crops going almost year-round.
So for your current stock pot right now, what will you be using that stock?
So everything, soups, sauces, gravies, everything you can imagine that you would use water, in place of water, in fact. I don't like to boil vegetables. I don't like to boil things. I feel like all the flavor gets sucked right out of it into the water. And so instead, I use very intense flavored water. I'll throw in bay leaves and other herbs into my water if I have to, say, boil potatoes. But my goal is to always be adding flavor instead of taking it away. So in reality, what I try to do is use stock to cook everything. So if I'm going to boil something, it's going to boil in the stock. And even then, maybe only enough that what it needs for its cooking. If I'm doing a really luxurious mashed potatoes for a holiday, I'm actually going to cook that in its own milk and butter and let that reduce down, and then mash those potatoes with the butter and the milk already in them, and they're very just luscious and decadent and so delicious. So basically the idea here is that I've taken all these different ingredients, including those juniper berries, and I don't know if you guys want to smell these. There's a fragrance that's reminiscent to pepper, but it's also very herbaceous. And that's just the ground down. So we can put a little of that into our soup as well. So this has the corn, the squash, the wild onion, some wild garlic, some stock that we've made, as well as some herbs. The other herb you would have found here in Texas growing that they would have used is sage. And so sage is also a very fragrant and delicious herb that they would grind down and use. And so I'm going to put a little of that into our soup as well. All right. Can you go ahead and make me a cornbread waffle, please? All right. So one of the other things that I developed for the restaurant here was I didn't want to do regular cornbread. I didn't want to do Texas toast. I wanted to try to go for something a little bit more traditional. And so we use a cornmeal, a mixture, along with some hatch chilies, and we make a waffle to go on the side of our dishes, soups and things like that, as well as our barbecue platters. And so that's a really great way to highlight also the fact that corn was such an important staple for the indigenous people of Texas. We love using corn. We do cowboy caviar, which is a combination of almost like a salsa, but with corn and beans in it. That's also really delicious. Let me know if you guys want to try some cowboy caviar. And so over here we got our waffle iron, and AJ's just going to go ahead and put this mixture, and again, this has the hatch chilies, it has the cornmeal mixture in it that we make every day, and we're going to serve that with the soup, so you guys can give that a try, and you can try the Three Sisters soup as well as the cornbread waffle. Anything else you want me to show you or talk about?
No, you're doing great. I felt like I was on the Food Network for a minute there.
Yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, they grew all different kinds of beans. They would have foraged. They grew all different kinds of squash depending on the seasonality. They would forage wild onions, any herbs that they could find. They weren't afraid to try things, and sometimes it didn't turn out very well. People would get sick trying new things. But then when they would find something like the juniper berry that they could actually flavor their food with, they were very much into the culinary journey themselves. And when traders did come, when new tribes would come and bring something new, they would trade with them, and they would learn so much from each other. And then every time when the Spanish came, outside of the warring and all the terrible things that happened, there was this amazing progression of the food. And it all started with these three sisters and the foraging off the earth and the fishing out of the ocean, and there's some hunting and things like that as well. But especially for the Caddo, who are most known in the area, this would have been their staples right here.
So you call it the Three Sisters?
The Three Sisters.
Because of the three main ingredients?
Right. Basically, they are crops that help each other grow. The vines from the squash would protect the beans. The corn stalks would reach high, and they all would give each other nutrients and give the earth nutrients as well, so they could keep planting. And so these were really important crops to grow together. And they were finding that out all across the southern United States, not just in Texas, but it was very, very prevalent here.
This smells so delicious. And so she said that she doesn't like to use water. So it's basically a bunch of it's a stew that she's been cooking with all these vegetables for so long. Smell it.
Okay.
Smell test.
Oh, I don't even have to lean my head down.
I know, you already.
Oh, she don't play.
Now she said this is technically not on the menu. It's more of a seasonal thing. This will be more of like a chef special with the ingredients that she has. So when you come in, I guess you can ask for the Three Sisters soup. Maybe it's something that they do have.
You've already eaten.
No.
I'm sorry.
You had it? You had some?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to.
I'm sorry. You're saying
talking here.
Sorry.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This is. Everything just melts in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
All the flavors. There's like sweetness, I guess, from the pumpkin.
Okay.
But then you have the beans, the nice crunch of the corn. This is like, oh my God. This is no joke. You guys.
Each a small piece of the waffle the way we serve it, but then I'm going to do it more traditionally the way it would have been served with this soup.
I just have to say real quick,
Yes.
all of the ingredients are blending perfectly. There's all these like different textures as well. You have like crunchiness of like the corn, but then some sweetness from I guessed was the pumpkin, and then it's smooth, it melts, and it's like, this is so good.
The thing about this is this is so reliant on just what they would have found in nature. I didn't put anything in it. I didn't add tomatoes, I didn't add potatoes, I didn't add any of the things that they wouldn't have had then. I gave you the purest version of what our original food would have looked like, so you guys could get a feel for that. And then imagine how that would have turned into a chili, or that would have turned into more complicated
I taste it. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's some soup that, like, is at the base of this. So it's just, great.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I'll be back.
Okay.
And it's hot. Okay, so this is a waffle.
It's a cornbread waffle.
Oh, cornbread waffle. Shut up. Oh, and I see. Oh, shoot. Okay. Okay.
That scared me. Whoa. Oh, snap.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God.
Not a big fan of cornbread.
What?
But this, I just don't like it. But this is good. It, like you said, melts. Like, it's just good.
In the wintertime, this would be amazing. I mean, it's currently not winter and it's very hot right now, and it's still amazing. But especially in the winter, the colder months, bundling up, having some Three Sister soup. Heck yeah. Wait, did we take a picture of the actual soup when it got in? Oh my God. Well, we have it on video.
And we're hungry.
We're hungry.
I haven't eaten since 7 a.m.
I can take an aesthetic shot of like my empty bowl. I don't know.
Think of your empty bowl.
And they definitely would have had honey, because as they foraged, they would collect honey as well. So they would have really good local honey. We carry local honey here, and I just feel so, that's something, again, anytime we can get something from nature and encourage nature to keep producing it, sustainability is all about, and food should be that way too. So yeah, you can imagine they would grind up all kinds of things to put into this to give it lots of nutrients and texture for nutrition. There's a saying, you can feed a man a fish, or you can teach the man to fish. So as much as I love to cook for people, I also love to give them the tools to cook. So I guess my mission statement would be to make people happy with food in all the ways possible.
We've been learning so much from Chef Josie already, but the learning isn't over. We had her share some cooking tips and debunk some cooking myths.
Don't be afraid to try new ingredients. Don't get trapped into this mindset that you can only cook what you know how to cook. Make it a family affair. Turn on some music, make some punch, make it a party. Quit poking holes in your meat.
No way.
Every time. So, I see the guy with the, man apron on and his big fork out at the barbecue, and he's like stabbing the steaks and flipping them and stabbing them and flipping them, and I'm like, no, please don't do that. Every hole is a leak, and every leak leads to dry meat. You know this trick?
Yes.
This one?
Yes.
And this one?
For steak. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for chicken too. You got a chicken breast, you got a pork chop, whatever you have. This is rare, this is medium rare, this is medium well, and this, the most important one for chicken, that's well done. That's what you should feel when you poke a piece of chicken. But every time you poke a hole in it, you're losing the ability to retain the moisture. Quit flipping it all the time. It should just flip like the one time, maybe a third time if you really want beautiful, grill marks. But what you're looking for is the heat when you're grilling, or when you're using a saute pan, anything you're using that has that single surface cooking. In other words, it's not an oven, right? It's not cooking all the way around the food. You're cooking from the bottom up. And so what's happening is it's starting to heat and cook that food from the bottom up, and it's working its way into the middle. If you take a piece of chicken and you flip it, it's starting over again on the other side. If you're not sure it was processed carefully, washing it doesn't hurt anything. I mean, again, this is before you're getting to the cooking stage. Washing a chicken and then patting it dry and then doing all your seasoning and everything is totally fine. But if it's coming from you from a reputable source and it's been packaged, you know, shrink wrapped and all the things, it's been washed really thoroughly. You don't have to wash it.
We had a great time over here at Let's Eat, Texas in Killeen. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. We had some amazing food. Josie knows what she's talking about. Look out for that cookbook. And we'll see you next time on Morning Munchies.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Hello. We're back at Let's Eat Texas. It is 6:52 p.m. We're here for their Texas Harvest Supper Club. Every now and again, Let's Eat Texas hosts a night of something. And the theme tonight is Texas Supper Club. And I was invited. I brought my girlfriend, Jordan, with me. And we're going to see what's going on. It's going to be a 4 to 5 course meal. They have different kind of proteins, I guess, that you can pick from. It was a ribeye, lamb, or like a ravioli. And we went for the ribeye. Do you have any? Is there anything that you expect from tonight?
Autumnal flavors.
Autumnal flavors. Ooh, really good. Yeah, I'm expecting a good time, and autumnal flavors as well. So, what we're gonna go in, take some video and picture, you know, nonchalantly, and then we'll come back with a review of what we just experienced. Okay. It's from 7 to 9, so it's a 2-hour event. Walking back into the restaurant, I was shocked at how different the place looked. Entry was with reservations only, and there were significantly less seats available, allowing for a more intimate night out.
Welcome to Let's Eat Texas Fall Harvest Supper Club. And in case you don't know, everything you're eating tonight is a Texas product. We are using things from local producers. We are using things from local farmers. We are using things from local ranchers. You've got your fried artichoke hearts, you've got your quail, you've got your poppers, and then you've got 2 types of tacos. But everything that we use is local. So on the salad we have pomegranate, we have the candied figs. I did a pomegranate fig dressing to go on that. And I want to mention 44 Farms. I think they're amazing. These are the happiest cows you will ever meet. 44 Farms, they do true Black Angus. They do antibiotic-free everything. These guys are just happy. They graze all day, and so this is Black Angus, certified hormone-free, certified organic, and that's your ribeye tonight. I know we've given you a lot of food and a lot of things to think about, but for dessert we have some local figs. They have been candied, dipped in chocolate, and sprinkled with local pistachios. Local pecans, little tarts. We've got some apple hand pies, and lastly we've got some sopapilla cheesecake. So thank you guys again for all coming. Our next one isn't until February, but I do plan to have something like this for my book release party, and if all goes well, getting all the pictures sent in and off to the printer, I should be able to have that book release party just before Thanksgiving.
We just left dinner. It's 8:56 right now. Great.
Right on time.
Right on time.
Beautiful.
What did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah, it was
Thought it was really good.
Yeah. What was your favorite thing that we were served?
The first bite of the night was a fried artichoke.
Mm-hmm.
It had like a hatch chili sauce on top.
Yep.
Really delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Really liked the desserts. Big sweet tooth. There was a pie. It was like that big.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I want to say it was like a fig pie, and it had a caramel whipped cream on top.
Oh, the caramel whipped cream to die for. And the steak. I'm not a fan of steak that's not completely well done. I asked for A1 sauce. There's no A1 sauce.
He got laughed at. He did get laughed at.
There's no A1 sauce. So I was surprised. So I was nervous.
Chef Josie came to the table and did say that was blasphemous.
Yeah.
So
I was a bit nervous seeing any pink in the meat, but it was really good. Despite I ate a lot of the steak, which was, I'm pretty proud of myself. And you ate a lot of the steak as well.
It was a sous vide.
Sous vide steak, yeah.
Steak.
Oh, look,
Very
there's a cat. Oh.
Oh.
Try to get the cat. So keep an eye on her Facebook and her Instagram. That's where she's going to announce all this stuff. But yeah, successful night.
Very successful. Very yummy.
Bye.